So I was sitting in my cubicle today and I realized ever since I started working, every single day of my life has been worse than the day before it. So that means that every single day that you see me, that's on the worst day of my life.
What about today? Is today the worst day of your life?
Yeah.
Wow, that's messed up.
In 1992, Francis Fukuyama released a book titled The End of Human History, a book about how the fall of the USSR signaled that the alternative to capitalism has been destroyed. Thus, free market neoliberalism will reign supreme for the rest of human history. Fukuyama writes that, in the post-historical period, there will be neither art nor philosophy, just the perpetual caretaking of the Museum of Human History. During the 90s, US politicians were happy with the idea that capitalism had won out and communism lost. In 1991, President George Bush Sr. said, "Confrontation is now over. The nuclear threat, while far from gone, is receding. Eastern Europe is free. The Soviet Union itself is no more. This is a victory for democracy and freedom. It's a victory for the moral force of our values. Every American can take pride in this victory, from the millions of men and women who have served our country in uniform to millions of Americans who supported their country in a strong defense under 9 presidents." Many economists and politicians would claim that the prosperity of the free market and triumph of American democracy would lead to a prosperous time for all Americans. Yet, despite this, in 1999, the news was reporting that the American economy was showing an uncertain future. On January 4th, 1999, the New York Times reported, "A sluggish world economy, a growing profit squeeze, and a less than ebullient stock market. The unsettled global economy should continue to drag down growth in the United States." And Pew Research has shown that even with some growth throughout the 90s, wages haven't changed since the fall of the USSR. Despite this, US politicians would declare that capitalism is succeeding. In President Bill Clinton's State of the Union address in 1999, he says, "My fellow Americans, I stand before you tonight to report that the state of our union is strong. Now, America is working again. The promise of our future is limitless, but we cannot realize that promise if we allow the hum of our prosperity to lull us into complacency. How we fare as a nation far into the 21st century depends on what we do as a nation today. So, with our budget surplus growing, our economy expanding, our confidence rising, now is the moment for this generation to meet our historic responsibility to the 21st century." This optimistic future espoused by US politicians and economists was not felt by the general population. The popularity and slew of movies reflecting this uncertain future and false realities, like Fight Club and The Matrix, show the American working class was rather pessimistic about the so-called triumphs of capitalism. The staple of Office Space as a cultural icon in American pop culture is also a part of this working class consciousness. Unlike Fight Club and The Matrix, Office Space is in the realm of reality, and its intention is to dispel the myths of this prosperous America that the American worker should be happy with. Peter works for Initech, a technology company that handles banking transactions, and Peter is extremely stressed out. He hates living out his life in the workplace, along with his co-workers, Michael and Sahir. He goes to an occupational hypnotherapist for treatment, and Peter is put into a state of relaxation. But upon the hypnotherapist having a heart attack, Peter becomes permanently calmed. Peter now sleeps in, goes to work whenever he wants, and dresses casually. He has the confidence to ask the waitress, Joanna, out on a date. When the consultants come to interview the workers, Peter tells them how he hates his job and only does about 15 minutes of work. He tells them he's not lazy, he just doesn't care. The consultants call him back for another interview because they believe he's management material, and he can have the promotion so long as the consultants can fire Michael and Sahir. Peter tells his co-workers about what the consultants are doing, and devised a virus to gradually embezzle the company's profits to their own bank account. They found out a day later that they stole $300,000 in one day, and Peter and Joanna break up because Peter finds out that Joanna slept with Peter's boss. They decide to confess to his bosses what happened, but when Peter tries to drop off the confession, he finds the office burned down. The film ends with Peter getting a job as a construction worker, gets Joanna back, and Michael and Sahir get new jobs at a different software company. Office Space shows the reality of American prosperity, that despite what is considered a booming economy, work still remains as it always is, just work. The film posits that the only way to be happy is to find happiness outside of work, meaning that happiness can't be found within a capitalist workplace. This is what drives Peter and his friends to create the computer virus, because the interest of creating profits involves stealing the life of Initech's employees, and makes humans stare at computer screens for long periods of time. The interests of the working class runs counter to those of the upper class, which is what creates class struggle. Another example of the myth of prosperity is when Peter goes to see the consultants. The mantra of working hard to achieve higher levels of success is dispelled as Peter admits to the consultants that he does nearly no work and is rewarded with a promotion. Another example is Joanna's arc, as she is a waitress at a fast food restaurant and is required to wear more flares and be more expressive, but instead decides to flip off her boss and gets a job at a higher class restaurant. And in the final scenes of the movie, the reason the workplace was burnt down was because one worker, Milton, had his stapler taken away by Peter's boss. And the end result is him taking a vacation to a tropical beach. While of course not changing the capitalist mode of production, the characters in the film are rewarded for their acts of revolt. Creating a virus, flipping off the bosses, and burning the office brought more happiness to the characters of Office Space than continuing to work at Initech and fast food chains. And, in an optimistic theme, the film shows how the workers are the ones who create their own prosperity when they combat the capitalist system and find happiness outside of it.
Cock gobblers.
Samir and I are the best programmers they got at that place. And you haven't been showing up and you get to keep your job.
Actually, I'm being promoted.
What?
I know, Michael. It's completely unfair. And I realized something today. It's not just about me and my dream of doing nothing. It's about all of us together. I don't know what happened to me at that hypnotherapist, and I don't know, maybe it was just shock and it's wearing off now, but when I saw that fat man keel over and die, Michael, we don't have a lot of time on this earth. We weren't meant to spend it this way. Human beings were not meant to sit in little cubicles staring at computer screens all day, filling out useless forms and listening to 8 different bosses drone on about mission statements.
I told those fudge packers I like Michael Bolton's music.
That is not right, Michael. For 5 years now, you've worked your ass off at Initech, hoping for a promotion or some kind of profit sharing or something. 5 years of your mid-20s now gone. And you're gonna go in tomorrow, they're gonna throw you out on the street. You know why? So that Bill Lumberg's stock will go up 1/4 of a point. Michael, let's make that stock go down.